Buffalo Latino Lens, sponsored by Start With Sleep, The Doze, Neighborhood Health Center, the Hispanic Women's League, and the Buffalo Latino Village. On this episode of Buffalo Latino Lens, we sit down with Shirley Vazquez, a mother and author who took the trauma of losing her son to gun violence and wrote a book, A Letter to My Heart.
My name is Shirley Vazquez. I am a somatic movement teacher, Reiki master, and trauma healing practitioner. Professionally and personally, I am a mom of 4 and a wife, and those are my favorite titles. Somatic movement and Reiki, they're different combinations of bringing relaxation, reducing stress, anxiety. They're different modalities that you can use, all for the same benefit. Somatic movement really focuses on processing and releasing the emotions that get stored in the body, especially through chronic stress and pain and loss. So they are movements that you do to try to help find safety again within your nervous system. And Reiki, it tries to balance the energetic body to help promote and produce various health benefits as well as relaxation and de-stressing. My book is called A Letter to My Heart. It originated from just being my own safe place in therapy, of just not really having a physical outlet to speak to my own heart, speak to anyone that would listen beyond this world, because it was an outlet that I needed. I needed something, and that seemed to be the safest place. Along the way, I learned about somatic movement therapy, and after no human form could help me attempt at feeling better or healing what the pain I was in and the damage it was causing me, I will definitely say that somatic movement saved my life, physically, mentally, emotionally. So between my writing and somatic movement, here I am. Who was my son? He was everything good in the world. He was perfectly imperfect. He was stubborn. He was loyal. He was brave. He was sensitive, protective. He was my heartbeat outside of my body. He dreamed of being in the NFL. I remember him being about 9. And one day he came to me and said, "Mom, I'm going to be in the NFL when I'm 21. I'm going to have a wife, 2 kids, and I'm moving to either Canada or Mexico. And I'm going to make sure I'm going to always take care of you, Mom. Don't worry, I'm going to buy you a big house." And that was Paul. Through his stubbornness, through his feistiness, he was just one of the bravest, loving souls I've ever met in my life. He was best. He really was. A mom's dream son, even with his stubborn, feisty ways, for sure. If I'm being honest, and that's all I want to be, is truthful here, is there's a lot I don't recall. There's a part of, I think, my brain that still tries to protect me. I know enough that has traumatized me of this psychological and emotional damage, but there's a lot that doesn't. What I do know is the only way I can describe it was just unbearable. I don't think it's pain that anyone should actually have to feel or endure. And it almost killed me, honestly. So as I navigate little by little, with flashes and memories that come back from that, what I do know is that the only way I can really put it, the psychological, emotional, mental destruction it did on me was kind of like me lugging around my soul. Like I was dragging my soul around for what felt like years, while my human body tried to figure it all out. My soul just felt like it was being dragged, like a zombie that was trying to put back pieces that just can never fully be put back together. It's been 6 years since my baby boy has transitioned, and it is still every single day so hard to be present and show up for my daughters and for myself, and knowing that I can't show up for him and that he can't show up. I still wait for him to come through the door. Sometimes I can lay on the couch and swear I can hear his clumsy footsteps at the back door, or hear his giggle in my head. It's especially hard when my daughters do something quirky that he would do, a prank, or laugh at something he would, or something. There's a constant reminder. So yes, I've questioned, what did I do so wrong that I had to live without him or even attempt it? I've questioned a lot on just going with him. But I just don't want my daughters to ever question if I love them just as much or the same. So I fought after my last really big hospital stint. I fought and I said, no one in the human world seemed to be able to help me. So I prayed more than I've ever prayed. And I knew something in my spirit felt like I didn't survive this to die. But I just didn't know how I was going to get out of it, or how I was going to, because there's no fixing to this. It's not like, if you meet a new man or after an abusive relationship, and those are very traumatic, that maybe you can find like the rainbow, or like that sense of like thankfulness that you got out of that. And this is not that, right? I've been through a lot of traumatic events in my life that somehow there's like a silver lining, or there's a moment where you're like, oh, thank God, this is not that. I could have more kids. No matter what happens, my son's not walking through the door. So there's just no like rainbow at the end of this tunnel. So as I was literally deteriorating, my organs were starting to slowly wither away and shut down. I needed a total body physical therapy. At one point I had 31 injections in my body and along my head at that. And nothing still worked. And so I prayed and I prayed and I cried and I prayed. Because see, I didn't meet God in a church. I didn't meet him from reading the doctrine. I met him not even getting on my knees to pray. I was on my knees begging to just take this pain away. And every time his hand came through, little by little, I started to open my eyes, and little things. It started with like an ad on YouTube and just little things. It was like, I was on the floor just crying, praying, begging. I just wanted to be taken out of my misery. And somehow just little subtle things came across the TV, but in my spirit, it felt like it was specifically for me. And so I said, what the heck? I tried it. And it was scary to process emotions you think that you've processed and that's what a somatic movement is. It's really processing emotions that you've never processed. It's not so much reliving the event in your head. It's that emotion that keeps you triggered and traumatized, right? Staying in the victimizing space that won't allow you to pull yourself out of that. And it was very scary when I first started, because I thought, because I didn't think about it, that it was I was fine, that I was better. Not so much about my son, but just in general. Until I realized absolutely not. And when I wasn't doing somatic movement or Reiki, I felt horrible again, like 10 times worse. And every day that I would process an emotion, get on the floor and spend time with myself, go into deep prayer, learn what real stillness was, being more gentle with myself, I didn't feel better with my grief, but I felt braver than I did before. And I think that bravery was something I needed to keep going, to become dedicated, to become consistent, because that's what I was missing, because nothing was normal in my life anymore. So that's why I say I stand by it, because it saved my life. I don't know, and I could only hope that it would do it for others, but what I can tell you is that without that, I don't know where I would be right now.
How well you sleep impacts how you show up in the world each day. My mission is to change the conversation about the way we view and prioritize sleep. Through my companies, Start With Sleep, I educate communities, workplaces, and schools. Through the Doze, we provide a line of sleep-enhancing products to help you sleep better and deeper. And through the Doze podcast, we offer you actionable tips to put the science of sleep into action. Are you ready to show up at your best?
When I come in here, if I've got a list of questions, they take the time to listen to those questions. We talk about them, they answer them for me.
Para mí es como un clic que haya entre el médico, el paciente, y más si es del mismo idioma que uno.
We've proven that if you come to our health center, that your health's going to be better than if you go to many other places.
I believe we provide the best type of healthcare there is.
This segment of Buffalo Latino Lens is sponsored by the Hispanic Women's League. Empowering dreams, elevating communities.
Letter to My Heart, the title just came one day. It didn't have a title. It was just scribbles everywhere. I wrote for weeks, months, years of just, I could be sitting, at a cafe or in the grocery store, and this huge emotion, a rush of pain, of almost like debilitating pain could come across me. And these thoughts, there were so many thoughts would come at once. And, I would freeze. I could feel my body freeze up in fear of even what was about to come and over me. And so I would immediately, when I got home, or if I was on the couch, wherever I was, I would find a piece of paper somewhere and I would just write. And I'd write an envelope, wherever, and I'd write. Although I had my kids, my husband, some close family and friends, I could have called and just told them these thoughts or emotions coming over. That wasn't the outlet that I went to. And so I would just write, and I'd write. And then eventually all of my envelopes and my papers, I started to just keep them together. And ultimately a letter to my heart was born. The reason why it's called A Letter to My Heart is my son, I always called my children. I have 4 babies, 3 biologically. And I would say my son was always my heart. He was the first person that taught me unconditional love in the way that I know it. My daughter, my oldest daughter, was my strength. She taught me resilience when she came into my life. And my youngest baby is my joy. And I say that just because of when they entered my life at the times that they did. And so I wrote to my son, I wrote to myself, I wrote to my broken heart, I wrote to God, I wrote to fairies, angels, whoever was listening in a world beyond this one that meant well for good. And so that's just how the title was born. I've always loved writing. It's always been a therapeutic outlet for me. But when I decided to put this on a book, that it could possibly help someone else in the same situation that maybe had not turned to writing or did not have a support system, or, just didn't know, that was chaos inside. Again, there's parts of your brain that will try to protect you from reliving the traumatizing event. And so having to reread and actually feel the things that I endured, that I realized I was not healed from, that I was not over and over again, the book almost never made it to the world, I can tell you that. But each time that I felt fear or I cowered down, I kept going back at it, processing a lot of the emotions that came with those feelings that I refused to feel years before. I'm not afraid. It took a lot. I bared my soul in my book to give it to the world in hopes that other people don't have to live with the worry or judgment of others because you're doing it differently. Because I'm not self-medicating. I'm not unkind. I'm not as angry. I'm not, because healing was like saying a bad word. Trauma is real and it shouldn't be ignored because it doesn't fit someone else's narrative or because someone else is not willing to see. What I do know is that healing is a journey. It's not a destination, right? If you're hoping to be like, oh, I'll feel better, November-wary of 2037. That's not what healing is. It's a walk you do for the rest of your life. And you have to be gentle with yourself. You have to, the same care you give to others, you have to give to yourself even a little bit more. You have to show up for you in a way that I don't think that in our communities we are told to do. Right? We're nurturers. We're told we take care of everyone else. Even if our legs are falling off, we're still going to work. Our moms are still in the kitchen cooking. No one ever says, sit down, relax. It's okay, but you're going to feel what you're going through. If you can't get to it today, it's okay. Unfortunately, going through this, it sat me down. And I was forced to process things that otherwise I probably would not have. And I felt like I was being punished for a long time because I feel like I was being forced to deal with something that I didn't want to deal with. But I can look now and I'm so thankful that I was able to process. And every day I process my grief. It's not like it's one and done. Every day from the moment I wake up, I figure out my toolkit, my shield of armor, and lay it at my side, and I process. So if it's a day to cry, if it's a day to move my body, if it's a day to breathe, if it's a day to do nothing for the day, if it's a day to just be still, to give myself the love that I need, then I do it. And I don't care of the judgment of how it looks because it's different. And I hope that other people can realize that if you don't take the time out for you, you're destroying yourself. And sometimes there's no reversal, That's why in our culture there's so many health ailments, it's stress can kill you, and it nearly killed me. So I hope that if nothing else, people will just take the time for themselves and face what broke them straight in the face.
How well you sleep impacts how you show up in the world each day. My mission is to change the conversation about the way we view and prioritize sleep. Through my companies, Start With Sleep, I educate communities, workplaces, and schools Through the Doze, we provide a line of sleep-enhancing products to help you sleep better and deeper. And through the Doze podcast, we offer you actionable tips to put the science of sleep into action. Are you ready to show up at your best?
When I come in here, if I've got a list of questions, they take the time to listen to those questions. We talk about them, they answer them for me.
Para mí es como un clic que haya entre el médico, el paciente, y más si es del mismo idioma que uno.
We've proven that if you come to our health center that your health's going to be better than if you go to many other places.
I believe we provide the best type of healthcare there is.
This segment of Buffalo Latino Lens is sponsored by Neighborhood Health Center, healthcare that welcomes you.
You know, if I'm being honest, I think within that first few weeks to few months, and I don't want to put a monthly or a calendared event on for that, because again, November, I still live in that bubble. My month is different than the month we're actually in of how I process. Time was going so quickly, and I felt for a second that I needed to catch up with what the world was, the pressure it was putting on me to exist how everyone else was able to exist, and that's not real. So if I could tell any grieving parent, don't try to put that extra pressure on you to be able to exist with your neighbor who her life was not altered in this way, right? And so if there's pool parties or birthday parties or there's events or there's all these things that you know internally you're not capable of attending, you're not capable of doing, don't put the extra pressure on yourself, right? And you know, it makes it so much worse when you're trying to navigate a world of nothing. Think of like when you see the tornadoes on TV and it's like millions of pieces and you're literally like, oh my goodness, those poor people. Like, oh my God, I cannot believe, like, it's horrible. That is metaphorically what it felt like. There was billions of debris, like my whole body just shattered into pieces, and little by little. And as I'm rebuilding, there's still pieces that will never fit again. They'll never be. So if I can tell any grieving parent, is to give yourself the time and the grace, and don't rush yourself to be anything that anybody else needs, because you need all of the extra energy for yourself. For sure. Hope is that I will continue being dedicated to myself and giving myself the grace that I still need. Hope is that my daughters won't have to wait till they're in their 40s to heal from the things that broke them, and that they don't have to chase or seek validation from other people. Hope is that people will understand that empathy is beautiful and that healing is possible. And the bravest thing you'll ever do is to show up for yourself in a different way. Hope is that although I'll never live a life full again without my son, but that I can move from survival to living one day. That's hope for me. So this is my beautiful family. It's my husband and I. This is our first ever photo shoot that we did about 2 or 3 years in after Paul transitioned. These are my beautiful babies and my husband. As you can see, we did not leave Paul out. It's me kissing my baby boy and my kids holding his photo. So although these are, older photos, they mean the world because it was our first ever photo shoot that he wasn't physically here. I think for me, it's just so important to keep him included, right? Even if it's holding a photo, or especially for, my 4-year-old, well, my 10-year-old who was 4 at the time. And, she may not remember the memory she has with him as she continues to grow, but she'll never forget his essence. And she talks about him just as much as we do. So if nothing else, my son lived, he loved, he was here, he made an impact. And it's gonna hurt me regardless to talk about it. Or if someone doesn't, sometimes I think it hurts more when someone doesn't. So for me, yes, when you walk into my home, there is a shrine. Like, if my family is still well put together and the same, we know the reality, but it makes us feel good. And so we're in the habit now of doing what feels good, and this feels good. So as you can see, he's all over the place. This was a recent photo that was taken, and we were surprised by the photographer, Nilsson, who created that for us during a Christmas photo shoot for the kids, which would have been their first photo shoot. My little girl actually danced with El Bate in the Puerto Rican festival that year. So during the parade, I should say, the Hispanic parade. And those are my babies and my husband at the parade that day. We walked it, and my little girl danced. So yes, it's extremely important to always keep Paul in everything we do. His beautiful smile, can you see it? He's just had like the perfect smile. Even with his braces on, he was just still so cute. So he was just the proudest boy to walk me down the aisle. If you can see, he wouldn't even let me cry that day. Anytime I went to cry, he'd stop it. He didn't want me to ruin my makeup. That's the type of kid he was, So, yeah. I had spent my whole life reading people, feeling their moods, sensing their energy, hearing what they weren't saying. But I never turned the same level of presence inward. I never explored my own emotional landscape with the same curiosity or tenderness. I never asked myself the same questions I so effortlessly asked others. I never learned the inner language of my own spirit. Losing my son forced me into a descent I didn't choose. But once I was there, I realized how much of me had been waiting to be seen, waiting to be heard, waiting to be understood. Maybe this is what depth really is. Not just deep conversation with others, but the courage to finally sit in conversation with yourself.
Buffalo Latino Lens, sponsored by Start With Sleep, The Doze, Neighborhood Health Center, the Hispanic Women's League, and the Buffalo Latino Village.